Well, good morning. It's good to see you today. You look good. In case nobody told you today. And you know what? I want to draw attention to something that, I feel pretty proud of. If you'll notice on my shoes, I am not wearing tennis shoes. I am wearing black dress shoes. So, there you go. I did that just for Fabby, nobody else. I'm just kidding. Can we have, Spencer, would you mind opening us in prayer today? turn mourning to dancing. You give beauty for ashes. You turn shame into glory. You're the only one who can. Morning. You turn mourning to dancing. You give beauty for ashes. You turn shame into glory. Gardens, you turn bulls into armies, you turn seas into highways. You're the only one who can. Lord, we thank you for all that you're doing in our life. Lord, we thank you for all that you're doing in the church. We praise you, God. You are awesome. Lord, you have made us with the power of your hand. God of Jacob, whose love endures through generations. I know that you will keep your covenant. I'm calling on the God of Moses, the one who opened up the ocean. I need you now to do the same thing for me. God, I need you. Oh God, my God, I need you. Oh God, my God, I need you now. How I need you now. Oh rock of ages, I'm standing on your faithfulness, on your faithfulness. Whose favor rests upon the lowly. I know with you all things are possible. The God of David, I'm calling on the God of David, who made a shepherd boy courageous. I may not face Goliath, but I've got my own giants. Oh God, my God, I need you. Oh God, my God, I need you now. How I need you now. A rock of ages, oh rock of ages, I'm are the same. Yesterday, today, you are the same God. You were providing then, you are providing now. You are the same God. You are the same God. You moved in power then, God move in power now. You are the same God. You are the same God. You were a healer then, you are a healer now. You are the same God. You are the same God. You were the Savior then, you are the Savior now. You are the same God. You are the same God. Oh God, my God, I need you. Oh God, my God, I need you now. How I need you now. Oh Rock of Ages, oh Rock of Ages, I'm standing on your faithfulness. Your never changing faithfulness. Oh God, my God, I need you. Oh God, my God, I need you now. How I need you now. You're the Rock of Ages. Oh Rock of Ages. I'm standing on your faithfulness. On your faithfulness. God, I need you. Oh God, I need you. You freed the captains then. You freed the captains then. You're freeing hearts right now. You are the same God, never changing. You are the same God. You touched the leper. You touch the lepers, then I feel your touch right now. You are the same God. You are the same God. Oh God, my God, I need you. Oh God, my God, I need you now. How I need you now. Oh Rock of Ages, I'm standing on your faithful. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. Oh God, my God, I need you. Oh God, my God, I need you now. God, I need you now. Oh Rock of Ages, I'm standing on your faithfulness. I'm calling on the Holy Spirit. Almighty river, come and fill me again. Lord, fill us again. Lord, we thank you for your goodness and your faithfulness and your mercy. Lord, and for your goodness.
God, we thank you for your love. At this time, we're going to pray for the nations.
You can be seated. I was gonna change outfits and everything, make you guys think it might actually be two different people, but that sounds like a lot of work, and I'm not too into that, so we're not going to. A lot of ancient cultures, Rome included, had a group of light soldiers that they were called skirmishers. Now, for Rome, this was called the Willis. They looked kind of like this. They tended to be more poor. They tended to be more poor than the regular legionaries. Now, they stopped using Willis. I want to say they became less common around probably maybe around 100 AD. But still, skirmishers were kind of a popular thing. They had, as you can see there in the picture, they had a small not staff. spear. A small spear and a small sword. Sometimes they would have a shield, as depicted in the picture, but not always. Sometimes a few of them had helmets. Most of them did not. And they had oftentimes animal furs that they had over their head. The idea was to gain powers, that kind of stuff, to be blessed or whatever. And but they didn't have armor, though, as you can see here in the picture. This was a good thing and a bad thing. Obviously, the bad is you can get hurt pretty fast. The good would be that you moved very fast. So the Willis were not used in formation like the Legion was. When you think of the Roman legion, you imagine them marching in file. That's not how the Willis worked. They just kind of, they were kind of like a strike force. So they would engage the enemy before the legion got to them. And this served two primary purposes. The first was kind of like, cannon fodder? Somebody else to take some of the arrows, so the more of the legionnaires survive. But then also they served a more practical purpose of disrupting the enemy before the legion got there. A lot of times, when we see ourselves and we operate more as Willis, whereas God intended for us to be more like legionaries. And when Paul compares us to Roman soldiers in Ephesians, he does it with the mindset of the Roman legion, not of the Willis. He never uses imagery from these guys. He only uses it from the Roman soldiers, which are the pictures I showed you last week, so I didn't include them this week. Maybe I should have. And in Paul's eyes, instead of the Romans wielding armor, he imagined us wielding God's tools against the enemy. But he never imagined this idea of us operating like the Willis without armor, just kind of running in there, and not really having a game plan, not working with other people. The church was always meant to be a tight formation of soldiers moving forward. Maybe a more modern example will get you. For those of you who have gone to see kids playing soccer, that's a fun thing, isn't it? Nobody really knows what they're doing. Nobody knows what the score is. Everybody's just kind of wandering around, running back and forth, and I don't even know sometimes. Maybe the ball isn't even on the who knows? Who knows? Nobody knows what's going on. But the kids are having a blast. They're laughing. They're smiling. But in your heart, you're keeping track of the score. And they say, "Oh no, there is no score." But you know. You know what the score is. And then they're all, "Daddy, did I do a good job?" You're like, "No, you lost." But no, you did great, honey. You did great. Man. But inside, you know the score. And it's just a mess. It's a mess out there. Nobody knows what they're doing. And then you can always tell the coaches that wish they would have, gone out to succeed after high school or whatever, because they take it way too seriously. They're like, "Oh, if coach would have put me in third quarter," they take things way too seriously. It's like, calm down, guys. I don't even know if these kids understand what they're doing on this field. Versus if you see a proper football formation, supposedly the team is working together. That's the idea, at least. And they're trying to do something to get a ball to a goal, and they just have it much more efficient. They're all working together. Everybody knows their job. What I'm getting at here is what I feel like the same thing Paul's getting at. We really can't succeed doing our own thing. Now, a lot of times, us as Christians, we try to still do things our own way. We go through problems in life, and we try to deal with it and kind of resolve it in the way that seems best to us, instead of working together as a church, or instead of doing it God's way. We get to a conflict and we say, "Well, this seems like the best thing to do," and we don't bother praying about it. We don't bother seeing what the Bible has to say about it, and it's obviously a mistake. But we don't really oftentimes realize it's a mistake. So today we're continuing winning life's battles by looking at, I did have a picture of them. Good on me. Ha-ha. As you can see, the big difference there between the Willis and the Legion. So, the Legion has much better protection, bigger shields. They work in formation versus the Willis, who are just kind of out there doing their own thing. So we're continuing today talking about winning life's battles with looking at the armor of God. We're going to be having to do this over 2 weeks. There's just too many things. So today, we're going to look at 3 of the pieces of armor, and in 2 weeks, we're going to finish up. We are not going to look at the armor of God or anything in Ephesians next week because it's our 100-year anniversary. We're going to have a lot of guest speakers going on, a lot of fun things happening. Bahama Bucks is going to be there. There's going to be a jumpy house, so make sure and invite people. And Pastor Blair Overturf's going to be here. It's just going to be a good time. So hope you guys make that on your schedule. But then we'll continue on with the armor of God the week after that. So we'll start off in Ephesians chapter 6. If you could please stand for the reading of the word. This is what it says. Finally, and be strengthened by the Lord and by his vast strength. Put on the full armor of God so that you can stand against the schemes of the devil. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the cosmic powers of this darkness, against evil spiritual forces in the heavens. For this reason, take up the full armor of God so that you may be able to resist in the evil day. And having prepared everything to take your stand, stand therefore with truth like a belt around your waist, righteousness like armor on your chest, and your feet sandaled with readiness for the gospel of peace. Lord, I thank you for your word. I pray that you'd give me the words you'd have me to say. Let me be made less and you be made more, always. And Lord, I pray you touch your church, give them the ears to hear what you would have them to hear today. We love you, Lord. Amen. You may be seated. Now, right out of the get-go, we need to look at something that kind of happens quite a lot. And that's, so what Paul is doing with the armor of God, he is trying to give people, he's trying to give Christians something to compare what they're supposed to be doing. A practical image. He's using a metaphor to help people to get what he's getting at. But there's something that people sometimes do today, and that's that they push the metaphor too far. Okay? They read the armor of God, and they think this is like, basically like, they don't understand that Paul is trying to give us an image, of what it looks like to follow God and trust in God. Instead, they take the metaphor and they see it as being literal, maybe. So maybe like where there's an actual armor that you're putting on. I've seen people do that. Sometimes people get wrapped up and have too in-depth of studies. And you see a lot of Christian books will actually have been written on the armor of God, really picking it apart and just, I think, seeing something that was never there. They try to kind of hyper-spiritualize the text, and so doing that, they miss Paul's basic metaphor. He's just trying to help them get a practical thing that they see all the time to help them see what they should be doing as Christians. Wearing righteousness around you, practicing truth, these kinds of things. And it's also not as precise as a lot of times people think. I'm sure if you grew up in Sunday school, there was some time in there where you had to put together the guy wearing the armor of God. And that was fine and everything, but you need to understand that it was never meant to be something that was super precise, and it was never meant to be taken like super literal. He's just trying to get a point across. For instance, if you turn to 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 8, it says, "But since we belong to the day, let us be self-controlled and put on the armor of faith and love and a helmet of the hope of salvation." That's not what it says in Ephesians. So are there different sets of armor? Well, no, not at all. Rather, he's just drawing on an image to help them understand. It's a metaphor, that's it. Don't take the metaphor and push it too far, but rather apply the things that he's trying to teach you to apply, okay? That's what it gets at. So why is the armor needed? Now, we started looking at this last week, and so we can kind of bring last week and into this week by looking at verses 11 and 13. And I just want to give you 4 things of why the armor is needed. Starts in chapter 6, and I wrote that, I did write that wrong. I swear I did, but it doesn't show off. It clipped off the bottom of the semicolon. Put on the full armor of God so that you can stand against the schemes of the devil. For this reason, this is verse 13, for this reason, take up the full armor of God so that you may be able to resist in the evil day, having prepared everything to take your stand. So we looked at that last week, and we unpacked that, and I don't really want to spend too much time there, but we talked about the way that both verses are basically saying the same thing. They just end slightly different to draw attention to different things, but you can watch last week's message. But 4 things we see here from these 2 verses, 11 and 13, about why the armor is needed. The first is so that you can withstand Satan's attacks, right? So life happens all around you. Something happens, something comes by, and you get discouraged or whatever, and then Satan comes by and he's whispering things in your ear. You know what I mean? Little things popping in your head. Or, sometimes he actually does bring things by. We see that in the book of Job. So whether Satan is directly causing these things or just moving behind the curtains, either way, putting on their armor of God is something that helps us to withstand Satan's attacks. So when his times of, like, let's say, for instance, discouragement come, you have something to combat that with. A lot of times, Christians, and this is a good thing, modern medical, that's good, okay? What's it called? Counselors and all that, that's a good thing. But sometimes Christians go to the other extreme. It's like, 50 years ago it was, if you go to the doctor, you're not trusting in God. Well, now the modern generation seems to have gone to the other extreme, and they overlook spiritual lessons and just resolve it with a pill. This is not how God intends it for us to live. Now, I'm not saying taking medicine is wrong. I'm not saying that, okay? What I am saying is relying and trusting on medicine and failing to learn a spiritual lesson is wrong. That's what I'm saying is wrong. And there's a lot of times where Satan will be attacking us, and we'll just have a doctor say, oh, well, you are diagnosed with depression, so you don't need to read the Bible and pray, and oh, no, you don't need that. You just need a pill. It's like, well, yeah, I get the point behind that, and you definitely want to get help if you're in need for help. But when you put on the armor of God, that helps you to withstand Satan's attacks. The same thing putting on the armor does is it basically prepares us, because the enemy that we're facing is not a physical enemy. Therefore, we need spiritual protection from a spiritual enemy. And this is important because, oh my goodness, how many times do we turn everybody around us into enemies? Republican versus Democrat, white versus black. I go down to different things. It seems like everybody has a different, reason to make somebody else their enemy. And it's important to realize as Christians, they're not the enemy. Satan is trying to bring discord and division and death. That's what he's doing. He loves that kind of stuff. And I think we need to see that in its light. So the third thing, the third reason why the armor is needed is to help us to withstand, because we're in the last days. Remember, we said this last week, the time that Jesus was resurrected and ascended into heaven, that began the end days. We're still in those end days. It's gone for 2,000 years so far. Who knows how long it's going to go on for. But so we're in those last days, and putting on the armor of God will help us to withstand those last days. It will protect us from the day. And what I mean by that is there's things that are just going to happen in your life. It's not necessarily God or Satan, it's just life happening. The armor of God helps you deal with that, right? Be it just a health crisis or, something that just comes up. It prepares you for what's ahead. When people in the church betray you, which church hurt is going to become more common, not less common, when that kind of stuff happens, the armor of God helps you to get through it without giving up. When we go through the persecution of the last days, where the church will be very heavily persecuted, the armor of God will help us to stand in that. And then the fourth thing, which, once again, highlighting on the point that the armor of God, it's a metaphor, don't push it too far. Remember that prayer is not a part of the armor of God. There's other things that are not a part of the armor of God that you should still do and put into practice. Paul is just highlighting a few things and then giving them something to show their importance, okay? You shouldn't lose sleep over the symbolism of the breastplate of righteousness being over your heart and then all these different... That's pushing the metaphor too far. And the last reason why the armor is needed is so that you can stand. There's no such thing as a self-made man. We've talked about this a couple times over the past couple weeks. There's no such thing as a self-man. God is what enables us to be able to stand. There will come a point when your faith is just, your faith and your strength is just not enough. So, as I've grew up in the church, and you guys know about this, a lot of times there's people who are really on fire for God, and great for them. I'm not trying to disparage that. And they will sometimes kind of hyper-spiritualize things and make it like more spiritual than it's meant to be. And one of the things that you might hear said is, put on the armor, why was it ever off? Well, you're kind of missing the point. You're missing the forest for the trees. First off, that would be pushing the metaphor too far. What Paul is getting at here is make daily adjustments. As you're a Christian, you wake up. Some days you're off, right? Some days you got it, and some days you just don't. So put on the armor of God. Well, it's already on. Make adjustments to the fit. How about that? But with that being said, it is worth, if you did want to make the metaphor super realistic, like, I never took my armor off last night. Okay, all right. Well, if you wanted to do that, most soldiers didn't sleep in their armor. They would if they were in a siege where they had to be ready to go, like now, or if they were on a continued march where they, hurry up and get to bed so you can get back up. But armor was extremely uncomfortable to sleep in. It would very much so make you sore, and it was a pain to get it on and off. I mean, once again, that's pushing the metaphor just too far. But what we can see from this is a principle that is very, very important as we get ready to go to the armor of God. And that's this. Yesterday's choices are today's struggles. And this is a good and a bad thing. So let me give you examples of it being a good thing, or a bad thing first. Yesterday, this was yesterday, you mouthed off to your boss. Today, you don't have a job, right? That would be yesterday's choices are today's struggles. A lot of times, you guys know that I've dealt with a lot of alcoholics and druggies. It's pretty much the audience of Tularosa that we dealt with. And I'm basically half of everybody that came into the church was, one or the other, alcoholic or drug addict. And so we dealt with a lot of them. And in that, there's a lot of people in prison who kind of have this victim mentality, where I'm in this situation is everybody else's fault. Now, I used to think that only drug addicts and alcoholics did this. I have since learned everybody does this. It's just easier to see in drug addicts and alcoholics because we already don't like them, right? But yesterday's choices are today's struggles. So something has happened yesterday, and no, the boss is not just out for you. You probably just were shooting off your mouth. Well, a good example of yesterday's choices are today's struggles is yesterday you stood in faith and you said, God, I'm going to wait for you in this situation. I'm going to stand and believe that you have something good. Well, that was yesterday. And today, because of your choice yesterday, you are dealing with the struggle. Are you going to keep standing your ground? So whether the thing that you did yesterday was good or bad, yesterday's choices regardless are today's struggles. It comes back. So let's get to the armor of God. And it starts in verse 14. It says, stand therefore, which we looked at that last week, so we'll just kind of focus on the armor, with truth like a belt around your waist. With truth like a belt around. It's not truth is an actual belt around your waist. It's with truth like a belt around your waist. Okay, so let's break this down. The first thing he mentions, the thing that holds it all together, the belt, is truth. That we are people who are to be known by truth. And there's three things that come to mind for me personally. The first is that we teach and believe what is true. What's true? A lot of times we seek encouragement at the cost of truth. We're so discouraged that we look to see a televangelist that makes us feel good, or a Christian book that makes us feel good, or whatever, so we can have any semblance of encouragement because we're so discouraged. And it doesn't matter that it's not true, we just want to feel good. I was talking to, I wasn't talking to them. This was, let me think. That was on a Facebook post. I wasn't talking to them at all. So I'm a part of a pastor's Facebook group. There's just lead pastors in the group. And one of the pastors made a comment the other day about, how did he say it? I won't mention the person, but basically he said, I've been so discouraged that I went and listened to a message from this, and it doesn't even matter that it was full of heresy. It just made me feel so much better than I was. That's not a good thing. That's why the armor of God is there. And that we be known by truth, that we teach and believe what is actually true, not what is a comforting lie. The second thing about us being known by truth is that we are not people of hypocrisy. Now, it's very common to hear people that are not in church say, I don't go to church because there's hypocrites. It's just filled with a bunch of hypocrites. And to that, a lot of times the tongue-in-cheek response is to say, well, there's hypocrites everywhere. And that's true. That is true, but it fails to address the concern. The concern is Christians should be better, right? That's the thing that people see in us. I'm not saying this is true or not, okay? But people see Christians and we have the truth, so we should be, in their eyes, better than whatever the alternative is. That we should have peace when nobody else has peace. That we should always have our act together. That our kids should act like perfect angels. That we should always be dressed nice and our finances should be in order all the time and everything should be great. Well, by show of hands, no, not by show of hands, not by show of hands. That's not us, right? So there's kind of two sides of this. Yes, we should be better. However, the other side, no one is perfect. And I think a good, healthy place to land on this is don't use our imperfection as a justification. Oh, I'm not perfect. It's Christ in me. Therefore, I'm not even going to try to stop being a hypocrite. Hear what I'm saying? You're going to mess up, all right? I'm not saying be a perfect little Christian, have all your ducks in a row. But what I am saying is sometimes we justify something that we're doing wrong instead of owning up to it and saying, you know what? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. My bad. You're right. I'm working on that. However, even though I'm working on this, I am not perfect. I'm never going to be perfect. And the longer you look at me, the more upset you're going to be. I don't get when people put all their hopes and dreams and plans on a pastor or on anybody else. The pastor's going to grow the church. No, he won't. That's not how it works. Well, the pastor's going to do everything that I like. No, he won't. What are you talking about? Nobody does what you like. It amazes me when people can't even get along with people at their job or people in their family or whatever, and then they expect that they're going to get along with the pastor all the time. It's like, well, hold on, that's a tall order there, you know? It's just not really realistic. A much better option of this is just own up to your faults. The third thing that I think be a people known by truth would be no false witness. Now, if you grew up in the church, if you've been in the church for any amount of time, you know the big commandment, don't lie. Like, everybody knows that, right? It was basically from the beginning of the Bible. You know, Adam and Eve have some kids, and one of their kids, right out of the get-go, murders somebody and then decides to lie about it. It's like when you have kids nowadays and you say, did you eat the ice cream? And they say, no. And there's, chocolate running down. It wasn't me. It was Teresa. It wasn't me. Well, obviously, we can see, where that came from. The whole don't lie, thou shalt not lie, was there for a very long time. And it amazes me that it is so neglected in modern Christianity. We've got the 10 Commandments. These are kind of seen as like the big dogs, right? The elders of the law, right? And the 9th one, everybody knows, don't lie, except that's not a very good translation. It really shouldn't be translated as don't lie. It should be translated as do not bear false testimony or false witness. And you might say, well, what's the difference? Well, the difference is this. The Bible is not condoning lying, but the specific emphasis of the 9th commandment is in court, don't bring a false charge against somebody else. And how that applies outside of court is don't say things about your neighbor that's not true. Don't say things about people that isn't true. So whereas I'm not going to say go and lie, the main focus of the 9th commandment is don't say things about people that are not true. As Christians, we're supposed to be people of truth, which means we're believing what is true, we're owning up to our hypocrisy, and we're not being false witnesses against other people. In difficult times, when you find yourself going through difficulties in life, different things happen and you don't like what's happening around you, the first casualty is almost always truth. Somebody hurts you, you want to look good, you lie about what happened. You are in a situation, you don't want to get busted, you lie. When you're in a bad situation, the first casualty is oftentimes truth. Truth is oftentimes sacrificed. So how does the belt of truth apply to us today? I think two things. Two specific things I want to mention at least. Sorry, I should have clicked that a little bit earlier, shouldn't I have? The first two things that I think specifically we can take from this. The first is cling to what's true. As Christians, cling to what's true. Not what's a lie, not what sounds good, not what makes you feel good, but what is true. And the second thing that I think we can apply the belt of truth to is don't say untrue things. If we are clinging to what's true, that means not only what is coming in should be true, but what's going out should be true. And I will say, no matter how much you are hurt, never use your hurt as an excuse to go against God's word and against His way of doing things. You might think that you're justified, but God won't see it that way. The second piece of armor is also in verse 14. It says, after it says about the the truth, the belt of truth. It goes on to say, righteousness like armor on your chest. And really, what is righteousness? Well, I think we can say righteousness in three things. First off, being righteous. Now remember, we're not saying salvation. We're not saying Jesus making you righteous in God's eyes. We're not talking about that kind of righteousness. We're talking about being righteous. This is a part that you do. It's not a part that God does. Okay? It's important that as we seek God, we also maintain this. And so the three things. First off, that we are known as people of good character. That we're known as people of good character. Second way you could say this is that we are people above reproach. Now, when I say above reproach, sometimes people get the wrong idea in their head. I'm not saying that you're perfect, okay? I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying you're not going to see, well, you might see me in a bar. You might see that happen. You won't see me drinking in a bar, okay? See what I mean? That's above reproach. You might see me in a bar, maybe giving somebody a ride. You might see me in a bar, maybe talking to somebody who I've been witnessing to. You might see that kind of stuff happen, but you won't see me drinking in a bar. There's a difference. And so that would be above reproach. Now, above reproach is not above nitpicking. Nitpicking is where you take the person apart and you criticize every little thing that they do, even when it's none of your business. It's not affecting you. It's not any way regarding to you. You're still sticking your nose where it doesn't belong. That's nitpicking. Nobody's called to be above nitpicking, and nobody will ever be above nitpicking. Like, if you try hard enough, you can find things in everybody. You know what I mean? Like, oh, well, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that. You can find some if you look for it. But being above reproach means that your lifestyle is one of good repute. Right? I mean, when I think of someone living above reproach, I think of, actually, I actually think of most of you guys. And I know that sounds like sucking up to the audience. I'm not. I'm being genuine. I think of Darla and Lonnie about how they have really good business practice. I think of Paul Holston. I mean, just the other day I was talking to somebody, I forget who, and somebody else who was positively impacted by your mom. I mean, just one of those things where a good name just goes before you. It's always there. And that's what I'm talking about, not being perfect, but having a good reputation. Also, if you're a righteous person, you care about things like justice and what's right. So I think that it's no accident that Paul gives us the image of a breastplate when we're talking about righteousness, because righteousness really has a way of protecting your heart. And a breastplate really protects your organs, all the stuff that's going on there. And that really is what righteousness does. It protects your heart. And it kind of works both ways, because your heart will affect your character. They both go back and forth. Your character protects your heart protects your character. Your character really affects everything you do in life, from the way that you treat people to the way that you do your job, to the way you manage your money. No matter how you look at it, character affects everything you do. And I've said this since I got here. I'll say it again because it never gets old. Talent and hard work will get you in the door of whatever you're trying to do. Ministry, job, whatever, right? Talent and hard work will get you there. But talent and hard work will not keep you there. It will get you in the door, but it will be your character that keeps you there. If you now, especially nowadays, you work hard, you'll get hired. It's not real hard. Nowadays, people are hungry for a good worker. But whereas that hard work will get you there, your character will be what gets you out or keeps you in. I was just talking to somebody the other day, and they were considering firing a person at this job. And it was interesting because they made the comment, I have to decide. This is not an exact quote, but I have to decide because they know the business. They know what they're doing. Am I willing to just shut down my pride and let them keep trampling all over me so the job gets done? Character. Or should I let them go and find somebody else or do it myself? See, what was it that caused that young man's door to be closed? His character. We put a lot of emphasis on hard work, and that's good. It's good to be a hard worker, but having a pure heart is infinitely more valuable. You can hire somebody who's they're just really not that skilled, but their heart's good, and you will never regret it. It's just the way things work in life. Now, I want to be absolutely clear here. I hope that nobody thinks that I am, trying to imply something about my own personal situation. I'm trying to apply the Word of God to your own situations, okay? So I'm not talking about a personal experience that I've had, all right? Good. So, going on to there, how can we then apply... I say that because sometimes people think you're saying something that you're not, and they think you're implying something when you're not. So I just want to be clear, I'm not implying anything, okay? That's good? How can we apply the breastplate of righteousness to ourselves? I think there's at least two things, and we'll just kind of hit them real quick. The first off, let your character be unashamed. When you do stuff, don't do things that you feel like ashamed for afterwards. And if that's your common practice, make it your common practice to go back and say, look, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have done that. You know what I mean? Like, you got to buckle down your mouth. You got to figure out, how to deal with people. I mean, that's just absolutely essential. Being a Christian isn't just about our walk with God. It's about our walk with people. Read the entire of the prophets. Read almost the whole of the law. It's all about how we treat people. There is half of it that's talking about how we treat God, but half of it's talking about how we treat people. That's very important as Christians, that we treat people right. So let your character be unashamed. The second thing, treat people as more important than yourself, not less important as yourself. When you go into a family situation, and I'll bring this up because we all have family problems, right? When you go into a family situation, how you deal with people shows whether or not they are as important to you as yourself. See what I mean? We will look down and treat people with disrespect in the family that we don't see as important as ourselves. The same thing is true, of course, for church and for your job and all the different stuff. Absolutely. Then we get to the third thing that we're going to look at today, and that's the shoes of peace. And this is verse 15. And your feet sandaled with readiness for the gospel of peace. Let me ask a stupid question. Why do soldiers wear shoes? Sounds like a really stupid question, right? Well, it isn't a stupid question, and the reason why is because if you never ask the question, you'll never get the answer. There are three basic reasons why Roman soldiers would wear shoes. The first thing is because it gives you firm footing. It gives you firm footing. That's something you're going to need. The second thing is because shoes are what enable you to be offensive. In the armor of God, this is the first thing that's mentioned that is for offensive uses. You could say the breastplate is for defensive reasons, and you could argue that the truth could be offensive and defensive, but shoes really are primarily offensive. You put on the shoes for the readiness of the gospel, going somewhere, right? It doesn't really leave you with the image of, here I sit alone in my house. It gives you with the idea of, I've got a mission here. I'm ready. Readiness for the gospel of peace. And the third, besides helping a soldier to have firm footing and to help him be offensive, a third basic reason why soldiers wear shoes is for protection. We don't think about this a whole lot, but on a battlefield, there's all kinds of different things that can cause you to lose your footing. Hear what I'm saying, okay? Just bear with me. There's broken arrowheads that you could step on, and it could cripple you. And because of ancient practice, you could actually end up losing your foot. It wasn't like today where you had to take some antibiotics, right? This is not like, this is a trusty blade. No, it's not. You could step on broken arrowheads. You are in a battle. The second thing of what they can help is when the enemy is attacking you, sometimes it can give you a little bit of, brace from that. But typically no, because they wore sandals a lot of times, so it wouldn't really give you that kind of a protection. But for things on the ground like rocks that you could trip over, well, that would help you to not cut up your feet. Your feet are probably the most important things as a soldier. It's how you get from one place to another. Without your feet, you're in a rough place. I was reading a memoir of I think it was a Vietnam veteran, I don't remember what, but he was talking about the way that when your feet, your improper shoe size, and because the socks are all messed up and the moisture and all that, how it caused blisters and stuff, and how that negatively impacted the war effort, and that kind of stuff. Yeah. So you need shoes for protection. Well, the same thing is true for the gospel. Everything we just said about a soldier needing shoes is true about the gospel, and it's true about peace too. Now, I know we oftentimes divorce the two. We'll talk about the gospel, and we'll talk about making peace. But here, Paul leaves absolutely no doubts about it, that the root of the gospel, the defining trait of the gospel, is peace. It's peace. We are supposed to be known as people of peace. The gospel and peace both will give us firm footing in the day of the battle. It'll help us to be offensive and keep seeking God's kingdom instead of shying back and hiding. I've been too hurt too much. It'll help us to have protection as we're going through life. And whether it's an attack from Satan or not, the gospel and peace gives us protection as we go through our battles. But that's not all, because it says here the readiness for the gospel of peace. What's that going on about? The readiness. Well, there's two basic ideas. First off, ready to witness and tell people about Jesus, ready to invite people to church and that kind of stuff. Yeah, absolutely. But more than that, it gives us a readiness to respond in bad situations with peace. Somebody comes to you, very, very common. Somebody comes to you in your family, and they give you this sob story instantly, bam, just like that. Their battle is now your battle. You know nothing of the details, but all of a sudden it's your battle because you took it personally that somebody would dare treat your little angel less than superior. And you don't know the story, you don't know what happened, you're still now in full-on attack mode. So you try to go to sleep at night, and you're all huffing and puffing, you're irritated, and you can't sleep. And then you wake up in the morning, you're irritated, and you just got a chip on your shoulder everywhere you go because of something that didn't even happen to you. You don't even know the story. We do this all the time in families. Oftentimes, don't stone me here, guys, but oftentimes you actually see it happening family member against family member. So let's say, for instance, Micah comes and tells me a sob story, and now I'm mad at maybe his uncle. And it's like, well, hold on. Did that actually happen, though? Like, sometimes kids kind of see things a different way, and you know how stories change in the retelling. But either way, when you have the readiness of the shoes of the gospel of peace, what you are doing is you're ready to respond to these situations with peace. Not with conflict, but to resolve them. The gospel is not a gospel of irritation or a gospel of tearing down other people. It's a gospel of peace, to rectify the people, to break down the divisions, and to get rid of, factions. So the enemy's tactics are going to be threefold when you come to these kinds of situations. The first, and these aren't, I guess this isn't a complete list, but very common when you're in a time of trials and temptations, the enemy is first off going to try to bring division. Division. That's me and Spencer, we don't like each other. You know, maybe I'm taking it out on something he did, or maybe he actually did something that rubbed me the wrong way. It doesn't really matter. We don't like each other now. Factions, or maybe the second little tool of the enemy, is slightly different because it's not about being divisive alone. It includes division, but it's where, okay, me and Spencer don't like Terry. See, now we're forming cliques, and we're not getting along with people outside of our cliques. And as long as they kind of stay out of the way, we're fine. But, otherwise, we don't have anything nice to say. We can't say anything nice about them. We just, man, don't you just hate Terry? You know what I mean? It's one of those things where it's constantly consuming your thoughts. You can't even say anything nice about the person anymore. And then the third little tactic that the enemy uses in times of difficulty is bringing you a hardness of heart. Well, I'm going to leave that church because of what they did. I can't believe that so-and-so would say that about. I can't believe that this person went, and you start getting hard of heart. And it no longer matters where the Spirit of God is leading you. It matters where your emotions are leading you. Well, I feel like I should leave the church. I feel like that's not a very good pastor. I feel like my sister. I feel like I need to quit my job. I'm not getting happiness from this job. I'm not content with. Those are emotional problems. That's not a spiritual problem. Okay, so yeah, and let me say that differently. Those are emotional problems. That's not a spiritual solution. When you are in a crossroads, the correct thing to do is not to be led with the emotions. The correct thing to do is to be led by the Spirit of God. A lot of times we try to act like the Willis, just hopping back and forth on the battlefield instead of staying in formation, because Satan wants to pick us off. So we will get ourselves in situations where we are not working in formation, be they divisions or factions or hardness of heart. And before you know, our line is breaking down because nobody's working for each other. Do you spend time praying for people? Do you spend more time praying for President Trump or criticizing President Trump? Did you spend more time praying for President Biden or complaining about President Biden? Where was your heart at? See, I mean, it's easy to get wrapped up in the things that the world is so upset with, but we aren't of the world. That's not how we do things. We do things how our master says so. And what that means is we're not allowing divisions in our ranks. We're not allowing that kind of stuff. Well, I guess that's a conversation for another day. It's very, very common as Christians when we're witnessing to witness in a way with kind of just having an arrogant tone. You know what I mean? We're just kind of like, obviously I'm right and you're wrong. And we just kind of talk to people in a combative way and kind of tear them down and kind of talk down to them as though they're lower than us. Oh, you're a transgender. How stupid. You're just so stupid. Oh, you're just so stupid. And it's like, well, yeah, but did you come to the gospel because somebody talked down to you and made fun of you? Was that you? Like, I didn't come to Jesus because, actually, I came to Jesus because logically it made sense. It wasn't emotion that got me. It was logic and reason that got me. I looked at facts, and atheism didn't make sense. The cults didn't make sense. Other religions didn't make sense. Christianity made sense. And I followed what I felt was reasonable and logical, and that's the way I went. So, but most people aren't like that, though. Most people are going to be more emotionally driven. They're going to feel God or something like that, which is fine, too. It's not like one way's right and one way's wrong. But in that, what I'm getting at is people don't come to Christ from you being a jerk or from you mistreating people. That's not going to bring people to Jesus. And a lot of times, it's a lot simpler than we make it. Hey, we're having a 100-year anniversary. You want to come? We got free $1 for your kids. Yeah, it's just a simple thing. It doesn't have to be complicated. You don't have to be like all up in their business. Like, hey, what you doing on Sunday? Then the next day, what are you doing on Sunday? I don't know. Okay, I'll call you tomorrow. What are you doing on Sunday? Like, there's just some ways they're just not real good. Not real good to witness to people. Everybody likes being a peace enjoyer. Everybody likes being a peace enjoyer. But we are not called to enjoy peace. We're called to make peace. That means we go in a situation that does not have peace, and we bring peace to it. We don't join in the gossip. We bring peace. We don't join in the conflict. We bring peace. See what I mean? It's not about doing things in such a way that makes sense to you. It's about doing things according to the kingdom of God. Your will done, not my will. And you cannot possibly be praying, God, your will in this situation when you're acting your will in the situation. Sometimes you just need to get out of the way and let God be God. So enjoying peace isn't enough for us. We're called to make peace. So how can we apply the shoes of the readiness of the gospel of peace to us today? I think the real simple way here, make peace. Make peace, especially when it's not easy. Make peace. As Christians, we're not supposed to be known as conflict. A lot of times, Paul, I think he says it 2 different places, but he says, be quiet in the society. How does he say it? The word is like silence. I forget exactly how it's worded in English. So it's basically, don't be quarrelsome or troublesome in the culture. Be a people of peace. Basically, I'll look up the verse later and we'll get a more exact idea. But that's the idea, that we be known by peace. And the last thing I want to hit on before we close out today, we've looked at a lot of information. Like I said, aren't you glad we didn't go through the whole armor of God? We would never have gotten out of here. So, the last thing I want to mention is oftentimes Christians let me say it differently. Instead of wanting the effects, I'll start backwards. A lot of times Christians don't want to wear the armor of God. They don't want to stand. They don't want to be strengthened by God. They don't want to stay in formation. But they want the effects of those things. They want the effects of having done those things. Maybe they want peace in their life. They don't want to make peace. They just want for peace to magically appear. They want joy in their life. They don't want to do things that bring joy, like reading the Bible and praying and staying in contact with the church. They don't want to do those things, but they want joy to just magically appear. They want hope. Well, where's that hope going to come from? Well, I guess I'll just scroll Facebook for a couple of hours. Well, that's not going to bring you any kind of hope at all. They want to persevere, but they don't want to do things that enable perseverance. I want to persevere through these struggles. Great. Put on the armor of God. Well, no, I don't want to do that. I just want to give a simple prayer and that to be enough. I don't want to have to change how I'm living. I want different consequences for how I'm living my life. Well, that's not going to work. It's not going to work. A lot of times people deal with crippling panic attacks, and they are living a lifestyle that is enabling those crippling panic attacks. And if they just make some adjustments, they might still have struggles, but I guarantee you wouldn't be anything like what they're dealing with. A lot of times we want the church to grow, but we don't want to have to actually invite people. How is the church going to grow if we aren't inviting anybody? How is that going to happen? Well, I guess I just show up, and eventually people will also just show up. Did you know I was talking to somebody the other day, and they said, that church is open? I thought it was closed. I thought it was like an old abandoned building. And I was like, not getting mad. This is me not getting mad. And that would be a good example. When you don't have that kind of, when people don't know you're even there. How in the world are they going to come? You want the church to grow, invite somebody. You want to have a good character, do things that cause a good character. Do you want to be a person of truth, grow in truth? And I'll end with this story because I love this story. There was a man who was getting into his middle ages, which you guys know that middle ages are not actually what they tell you are middle ages. Middle ages are actually in your 30s and 40s. They tell you it's in your 40s to 60s. Lies. Lies. Who's going to live to be 120 here? Come on. How could 60 be middle age? Come on. Goodness sakes. But anyways, so there was this guy, getting into his middle age years, which we'll clarify and say he's 52. Why not? And he's really starting to notice there's a little bit of an issue here in his midsection. His pants just aren't really fitting like before. His clothes aren't really fitting like before. What's going on? And so he's looking in his mirror, as we oftentimes do when we get to that age. Oh, what's going on? Oh, is that hair? And, then his wife comes in, loving wives, loving wives, and says, you're getting kind of fat. Wives have that nice, loving way about them. And he says, I think so too. Well, what I ought to do? And she says, well, you could try going to the gym. And he goes, well, that's a big step. Let's just wait and see what happens. Another month goes by, and she says, wow, you're getting even fatter. Are you going to do anything about that? He says, I'm going to go to the gym. And she says, hey, that's a good idea. I wish I would have thought of that. So he goes to the gym, and he decides that he's really serious here. So he's going to go 7 days a week. Every single day he's going to go to the gym. And he's going to be there for an hour and a half. He sticks with this schedule religiously. He misses church, he misses his job, but he never misses the gym, ever. He's always there, 7 days a week, hour and a half. And, 2 months more go by, and he hasn't lost a single pound. And so his wife, loving as she is, she decides to call the gym and say, look, when my husband gets in today, just kind of send him back. I'm canceling the membership. You guys are hacks. And the manager of the gym takes a picture of her husband and sends it back to her. And in the picture, it is her husband, and he's got his game face on. He's ready to lose some weight. He's got his exercise, exercise shorts, the ones that go like way up here, like basketball shorts. He's got them on. He's ready to go. He's got his bottle of water. He's in shape to go. And he's sitting down on the treadmill for an hour and a half, 7 days a week. And that poor man was so confused and so bothered as to how in the world could he not lose a single pound. Well, you see, God has more for you, but you have to actually put in the work. You want God to strengthen you, let him strengthen you. You want to win victories in life, start putting on the armor of God. Stop getting entangled in other people's fights. Stop putting your nose where it doesn't belong. Stop seeking an offense instead of seeking love and restoration. Find a way to grow past it. Stop letting it cripple your witness. I can't invite them to church because I'm in a conflict with them. I can't invite them to church because they already know that I cause a problem with everybody I'm around. Well, maybe stop causing problems everywhere you go. When you've got, 3 ex-bosses that you don't get along with, an ex-landlord, and maybe the problem's you and you might need to change. Like, is that okay? Can we change? Can we do that? When God calls you to things, absolutely, God has plans for your life. But unfortunately, we can sometimes sabotage those plans because we keep crying out to God, let me lose some weight, God, and sitting down on the treadmill. We're not going to get there. God has more for us. But you have to be willing to put in the work and put on the armor of God. Don't just look at the armor of God. Don't just think about the armor of God. Put it on. Be people of peace. Be people of truth. Be people of righteousness. We're going to close with that. And today, with prayer, we're just going to open up the altar for just general prayer. If there's anything, bow your heads and close your eyes. If there's anybody who needs prayer for anything, we're just going to open up the altars. Don't feel like if you come up, you're admitting that you're not a peaceable or truthful person or any of that kind of stuff. But if you're struggling with any area in life, or you're not even just struggling, you just want prayer, this is the time. This is the time. We just love to pray for you. I want you to be blessed. I want the Lord to walk with you and open doors for you. If you are needing prayer for anything, come on up to the front. We'll give it just a minute before we close out. You're going through anything in life. I want to get it just a little bit longer. But if you find yourself today needing prayer, now's the time. Lord, do a work, God. Do a work, God. As we go into this time of prayer, I would like to invite you to come to the front and pray for those who are up here. It's important as a church that we support each other in prayer. Lord, I pray that you'd bless your church, that you turn your face towards them for blessing, Lord. If any of us have fallen into any sin, Lord, that you deal with us in your mercy and your patience. Lord, I pray you give encouragement. You would lift the brokenhearted. You would strengthen the weak legs. Lord, go before them and bless them in all that they do, that they would go and be a blessing in turn. And we love you, Lord. Amen. Have a great rest of your week. Don't forget that next week is the anniversary. Prepare to eat hot dogs and Bahama Bucks and have a good time.